Namaskar. Friends, I, Dr. Rahul Bansal, welcome you to Bukina for Holistic Health. As you all very well know, one topic which is being discussed throughout the world nowadays is immunity. Everywhere, in all TV channels, in all personal discussions, I think this is one of the topic which is of interest to everyone, young and old. The reason is very obvious. Till we have the vaccine, till we have the treatment, definitive treatment of this pandemic, our immunity, our innate immunity, our natural immunity is a very big savior, a very big support to the mankind. But unfortunately, it is not being discussed as openly, as clearly as it should be. There are two approaches right now for us to fight this disease. One approach is avoid contact with the virus. And for that, social distancing, cleaning hands, wearing mask, wearing gloves and even specs. All these things are for one thing, that is, the virus should not reach us. And of course, it works well. But even then, in spite of all precautions, it may reach us. Then what is the important thing? Our immunity, our natural immunity. And I would like to start this discussion with by reading from one of the most famous proponents of preventive medicine in this world, Dr. Dean Ornish, who is world famous for his reversing heart disease through lifestyle choices, which included whole food plant-based diet, meditation, some yogic exercises, group therapy, etc. And he surprised the world by reopening the heart, the blood supply of the heart, the coronary arteries. And from that time till now, he is continuously working to promote preventive medicine. He is even running a center of Institute of Preventive Medicine in USA. And very recently he has written this article which is from Ornish Living. It is ornish.com. I have downloaded from that site. He has very nicely put this thing in perspective. To avoid getting sick, most of the focus so far has been on preventing exposure to coronavirus, which of course is very important. Staying at home, social distancing, hand washing, gloves, mask, disinfecting, etc. But very little has been written about the other half of the equation, how to enhance your immune system so that if you are exposed, you can reduce the chances of getting sick, or at least mitigate the intensity of the disease and thus reduce death rate. So he starts this article. He has given the four aspects which I will tell you in the end, because we are going to discuss more or less on similar lines. So Dean Ornish says that we have to focus on the other half also, immunity. And immunity, as you know, many of you must be knowing, is of two types. One is the natural immunity, our nature given immunity, which we are born with. The skin, the mucous membranes. In the mucous membranes there is IgA, immunoglobulin A. And there are other types of immunoglobulin also with us. Then below the skin or the mucous membrane we have white blood cells, the WBCs. And we have varieties of that. They are our foot soldiers of immunity. We have neutrophils, we have natural killer cells. Very important part of our natural defense system. And then we have another part of immunity, and that is what is called acquired immunity. That is when we have faced the enemy, when our body has tested the enemy, has confronted the enemy, the bacteria or the virus or whatever pathogen, then it develops specific immunity, which is specific to that pathogen, that bacteria, that virus. That only comes once we have had infection or through vaccine. So this acquired immunity will take time as far as this infection is concerned. It may take a lot of time. Let us hope it is soon. But till that time, our main focus should be to avoiding the contact with the virus with all those measures and making our immunity robust, strong. And this research which I am going to discuss with you, friends, will enable proof that we have at least partly, we have the power to make our immunity robust, to make our immunity strong. Because we know immunity matters. That's why elderly people are more prone. That's why very young and very old, they say, are more prone to this virus. That's why those who are suffering from diabetes or heart disease, other diseases, they are suffering more. That is why the secondary attack rate in household setup, as I have seen from the latest research, is around 14%. That means 14% of the people in the house living with a corona positive person are likely to get the infection. So there are many who don't get it also. Again, that is the role of immunity. So immunity matters. But how to boost that immunity? How to make it as best as possible? One of the first thing is, there are 4 points which I am going to discuss with whatever evidence I can show you. One is whole food plant-based diet. Rather, one of the most important. That is first. Second is good quality and quantity of sleep. Third is physical activity. Getting perspiration at least once a day by hard work. And the fourth and the most interesting and very important is the relationship between our mind, our thinking, our emotions and immunity. Are we fearful or cheerful? Are we hopeful or hopeless? Are we positive or negative? Are we having faith in some higher consciousness or we don't have? These things, friends, also play an important role in deciding our immunity. That's why I told you this is interesting. Usually people don't think on those lines. So, let us start with the first one, whole food plant-based diet. Well, common sense makes it clear. Like every other cell, immune cells also need certain nutrients. They need protein, they need certain kind of fats, they need minerals, they need vitamins, all those things. And where do we get them? Can we get them in the pizzas and pastas and all sorts of cold drinks? Can we get them in the processed foods? No, not at all. That's why they are known as empty calories. We get them in whole food, plant-based, the real food, the nature's gift to the mankind. That's where we get those vitamins, proteins, minerals. Vitamin A is being one which is being, said it is important for immunity. Well, vitamin A is there in all sorts of fruits. It is in papaya, it is in, mango, it is in the green vegetables, in form of carotene, carrot, of course. Then they are telling about vitamin C. We know very well it is in lemon and all citrus fruits. Then they are talking of other minerals like zinc, selenium, etc. So dry fruits and other food items, whole grains. So these are the genuine sources. So like every other cell, immune cells also need them. But there are certain very interesting studies. For example, in this book, which I had earlier reviewed in one of my bookinars, How Not to Die by Michael Greger, there is a chapter dedicated to how not to die of infections. And he very clearly states that to have the immunity against the common infections, whether viral or bacterial, we need to take a good amount of fruits and vegetables and dry fruits, nuts, etc. Almonds or this what we call walnut, all those things, all kinds of nuts. These are needed. And he gives an interesting study. Certain elderly women, around, as far as I remember, around 90 elderly women, were given pneumonia vaccine, which is a very commonly given vaccine for elderly people. Half of them were given very high doses of fruits and vegetables, fresh fruits and vegetables. Other half were given very less amount of that. And you know the effect on the immune response to the vaccine? It was much better in those women who were taking fruits and vegetables. Vaccine was same, but the immune response was around 80% better. The antibodies produced by the vaccine was far better among the women who were taking high amount of fruits and vegetables compared to those women who were not taking so. So, and there are other interesting points given in this book. So that is one thing. When we talk of food, we cannot help talking about the role of food in enhancing and nurturing our microbiome. And microbiome, friends, is being seen and researched as the main training center for our immune systems, our immune cells. And what is microbiome? The trillions of bacteria, friendly bacteria, good bacteria as you call, in our gut. Gut means intestines. Till now we were taking intestine as only a part to absorb the nutrients and throw away the waste products through defecation. But the research is proving it is not so. Intestines are not just for that. They are the reservoir. They are the, you can say, the treasure troves of millions of bacteria who give us this robust defense system. They also they also synthesize certain vitamins. They are a great friend of us. They are a part of our existence. Those microbiome or gut microbiome, they are also on the skin. There are also other places, but mainly they are in the intestines. And their role is now being found in as diverse diseases as asthma, diabetes mellitus type 2, obesity, allergies, so many diseases. That list is increasing day by day. The list of diseases associated with microbiome. If microbiome is healthy, or microbiota also, means there is a healthy balance of bacteria, then it is good for health. But if it is disturbed, it is known as dysbiosis, and that is bad for us, for our immunity and for other things also. And what determines the health of gut flora? There are two things. One is probiotic, one is prebiotic. Some foods are known as probiotic because they have already bacteria within them, like curds, like buttermilk, like yogurt, and even there are tablets. These are probiotics, means already bacteria which will help our gut bacteria to do their function. But that is not always possible, and that is not as promoting as prebiotic. That is also important, but the more important is prebiotic. Prebiotic means all those food items which nurture the already existing bacteria, which are already there, which makes their food, or which nurtures them, enhances their survival. And what are prebiotics? Prebiotics are nothing but, again, whole food plant-based diet. Genuine fruit, genuine vegetable, not processed, not fried, not grilled, but in original form. And one book which highlights this in a big way, friends, is this book. It's a world famous book, very well written. The inside story of our body's most underrated organ, gut, Giulia Anders. In this book, she has very clearly brought out, very effectively, very scientifically, how important is our gut health. And she starts with the elimination, the daily round of clearing our stomach. And she starts with the importance of squatting, the right posture. Very nicely she talks about all that, how it is related to so many things and immunity. And in her concluding remarks, what she says, let me read out few lines from that book. Almost nothing influences our gut bacteria as much as the food we eat. Prebiotics are the most powerful tool at our disposal if we want to support our good bacteria. That is, those are already there and are there to stay. And what she says, pasta and bread made of white flour on factory production lines are not enough. We need to include real roughage made of real dietary fiber in fruits and vegetables. Our bacteria will like it and they will thank us with their good services. I'm skipping some lines because of time constraint, but I'm giving you the gist. Each of us hosts an entire population. Most sit on mucous membranes, diligently training our immune system. Please mind this word. Diligently training our immune system, soothing our villi, eating what we don't need, and producing vitamins for us. So this is the book which talks about the gut flora, the gut bacteria. So when we eat the whole food plant-based diet, we are not only supplying vitamins and all other things with us, we are also nurturing our gut microbiome, the gut flora, which is very important for our health and immunity. But there is another thing going on, friends, very disturbing. We, the humankind, through our ignorance and maybe our greed, we are destroying the microbiome. We are killing our friendly bacteria. And what is the evidence of that? Well, Martin Blaser, who is one of the biggest name in microbiology or infectious disease, he is talking about missing microbes. How the overuse of antibiotic is filling our modern plagues. He talks about very clearly the invisible Eden is under assault from our over-reliance on medical advances including antibiotic and caesarean sections, threatening the extinction of our irreplaceable microbes and leading to severe health consequences. Taking us into lab to recount his groundbreaking studies, Blazer not only provides elegant support for his theory, he guides us what we can do to avoid even the most catastrophic problems in the future to come. So, this is a very strong book, very well written, and he clearly says that we are destroying our microbiome. And he, in this book, besides other things, he has pointed fingers to the meat industry, the mass meat production going on in the Western world, including USA and Europe. He says that there is a culture of giving suboptimal dose of antibiotics to the animals so that their microbiome is changed and they become fat. I told you, microbiome is also related to obesity. So they are using this since 30-40 years. Somehow they knew it. They are giving suboptimal, and that's how, as he says in this book, a large proportion of antibiotic being used in USA is not on human beings. A major portion is on animal feed. And that goes into he says that also goes into through the consumption of that meat, it goes also into our stomachs, into our system. Then people are too eager to gulp the capsules of antibiotic. Be it any fever, any viral fever, where there is no role of antibiotic, they start taking antibiotic. Even unfortunately, even doctors succumb to the pressure of the patients and they also give antibiotics. And according to Michael Blazer, it partly destroys our immunity. For example, in these days, when we are suffering facing the threat of this viral disease, taking antibiotic unnecessarily without a clear indication is very, very bad for our system. We are putting at risk by taking unnecessary antibiotics. And another thing which is destroying the microbiota of the so-called developed world, civilized human being, is the fast food. The food additives, the kind of food additives, the kind of taste enhancers, all sorts of chemicals, these are also partly destroying our microbiome. So, choice is ours. On one hand is whole food plant-based diets, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, which enhance our microbiome, which give us the minerals, which give us the vitamins. On another hand, we have this excessive use of, animal meat, or red meat specifically, or more dangerous, processed meat, and the fast foods. So, in nutshell, I can say, Western diet, either it is taken by Western people or Indian people, Western diet or any other country, is destroying partly I can say it is destroying our immune system. And the diets, native diets like Indian diet, I can say with full confidence that Indian vegetarian thali, which includes the salad, which includes curds or buttermilk, which includes freshly made roti or chapati, what you call, which includes freshly cooked vegetable, and afterwards some fruit like mango. This seems to be a very good diet. It also has prebiotic as well as probiotic. Similarly, other traditional diets of other countries, which their forefathers, their great-grandparents have been eating. So that gives us immunity, a robust push, upward push. So that is So much for the diet. Second important thing I told you in the beginning is quality of sleep. How much are we sleeping? More than that, how well we are sleeping. And there are very good research papers, lots of them, which show that, for example, Indian Journal of Physiology 2012, 463, page 121 to 137, sleep and immune function. Very nice review article which says that there is a clear-cut link between our quality of sleep and immune function. Sleep medicine, Elsevier's Journal, 2013, 1031 to 1034. It also says impact of partial sleep deprivation on immune markers. So we need to be careful about our sleep. We should not compromise on the sleep, especially in this era of this what's going on around us in this pandemic time. We should sleep well, and we should take not only that, duration and quality, also in the proper time frame. Friends, you know, must be knowing very well, we all have a biological clock in our system, what is known as circadian rhythm. And that clock is related to the clock of the universe. We are not separate from the universe. We are not existing in a bubble. We are a part of universe. We are an extension of universe. And I think the mankind has done a great mistake in thinking that he is a sovereign power. He has the capacity to control the universe. No, not at all. We are a part of universe. And I am telling you, friends, Ayurvedic rishis knew it thousands of years back. They have said it. We are a part of the cosmos. So in Ayurvedic medicine, a lot of emphasis there on following the routines of the diurnal routine. The following, eating, everything was linked to the movement of the sun, movement of the moon and all those things, and even the change of season. So what they call dincharya and ritucharya, the lifestyle related to 24-hour and lifestyle related to the changing seasons. They knew it well. Now we are discovering it, the circadian rhythm. We have to sleep not only well, it should be within the, say, 10 to 6 or 10 to 5. Instead of 1 o'clock in the night and getting up at the 8, it does not help us. It actually destroys our health, our immune system is also partly destroyed. And there is another thing which is being researched, melatonin. Melatonin. And melatonin has been found to be very closely associated with our immune system. And melatonin is also related to our circadian rhythm, our cycle, what time we are sleeping, how much darkness is there in the room. Artificial light also disturbs this hormone, which is so important. So, by creating artificial light, by creating artificial sleeping habits, we are destroying, in a way, our immune system. So, that is also has to be corrected. Third thing I told you was physical activity. It is again surprising that even 6 minutes of hectic running around increase the activity of immune cells in the children. A research has been quoted again in this book, How Not to Die of Various Diseases, including infectious disease. 6 minutes of vigorous physical activity increase the activity of immune cells by 50%. That was in children. In elderly also, one study has been quoted. Before the flu season, the elderly women were asked to be physically active at least for 30 minutes every day. And their risk of flu, which used to be 50%, were reduced to 20%. And those elderly women who were habitual moderate exercise doers, it was only 8%. So physical activity has a role, and there are a lot of researches. Now again, Elsevier's journal Science Direct, 2019, page 201 to 217, the compelling link between physical activity and body's defense system. Here are others. Physical activity and diet shape the immune system during aging. Nutrients 2020, 12, 622. This is a very recent issue. And it gives very clearly that immunosenescence means immunocompromise, decline in immunity with aging. This article says it can be stopped and even reversed by diet and physical activity. So if elderly people, even I am that way elderly, I am 61, if they continue to be active, continue to perspire at least a day, have that much activity, and continue to eat the healthy, whole food plant-based diet, their immune decline can be partly reversed. So that is very important. Now, coming to the last part, and which seems to be the most interesting part, is our thinking and our immunity. That is something which looks maybe rather unscientific, but it is thoroughly scientific. Our thinking, our moods, our emotions are having a big impact on our immune system. Let me begin this discussion with another great authority on medical science, Dr. Deepak Chopra, who is as you know, he is the founder of the Chopra Foundation, and he is a world celebrity, and he is from India. He studied in the AIIMS, New Delhi. He has written an recent article, "The Virus Can Give Your Life a More Meaning." He has very interesting words. I would like to read few words from this. Bad things happen to everyone. It is how you react that determines whether you come out healed or wounded. In all of us, the healing process is natural, innate, and powerful. More than immune system is involved. This is not just immune system, it is the whole system, mind-body system. Healing is a mind-body process. If you are sad, stressed, let me read out from his very interesting article, few selected lines. Bad things happen to everyone, says Deepak Chopra. It is how you react that determines whether you are come out healed or wounded. In all of us, the healing response is natural, innate, and powerful. More than immune system is involved. He says not just the immune cells, but a whole mind-body system is there. Healing is a mind-body process. If you are sad, depressed, stressed, anxious, helpless, hopeless, panicky, or feel out of control, every cell in your body gets that message. I think this is a very important point he has made. Actually, here I would like to mention one word: psychoneuroimmunology, PNI. Lots of research is going on. There are international journals on psychoneuroimmunology. And one of the pioneers in this field is Candace Pert, whose book Molecules of Emotion gives a clear biological pathway how your brain, what it is thinking. If it is sad, a different type of neurotransmitters will be secreted and through the blood get attached to the immune cells and endocrine cells and shape the activity of these cells. If you are happy, if you have the aha feeling, a different type of neuropeptides will be secreted, to be specific, and go and get attached to the immune cells and give a different kind of message. So your brain, through the hardware of nerves and central nervous system, and through the hardwiring and through this blood stream, in a way is connected to every immune cell and every endocrine cell and all other cells in fact. So when you are sad, when you are upset, when you are annoyed, helpless, the different kind of message is going to every cell, and that is the basic philosophy of science of psychoneuroimmunology. Then continue to read from this article. Therefore, do everything you can do to send the opposite message. The message of hopelessness, the message of melancholiness, sadness has to be somehow or the other negated. And how can you do it? One of the ways he suggests very strongly in many of his articles, including his book, The Healing Self, surcharge your immune system and stay well for life, along with Rudolf Tanzi, professor of neurology, Harvard Medical School, a very well written book. In this book also, time and again he says, mind has to be the part of the overall broader immune system. And again, the same thing is he's telling. Of course, he's written many other things about immunity, which you can read in his book. Meditation. He talks about meditation, which has a strong effect in restoring mind-body balance. And meditation, I really feel that in these troubled times, we should definitely do some amount of meditation, say 10 minutes of meditation or 15 minutes of meditation, morning as well as evening. It can be a prayerful meditation. It can be a mindful meditation. It can be relaxation response as given by the great scientist I call Professor Herbert Benson, whose world famous book Relaxation Response and Beyond Relaxation Response are classics of meditation, research and meditation. Harvard cardiologist who is still running Mind Body Center in Harvard School of Medicine. Pioneer, one of the pioneers of mind body medicine. He also emphasizes on relaxation response, which in one of the bookinars in this channel I have reviewed both his books, Relaxation Response as well as Beyond Relaxation Response. So that can be one way. There are so many ways. Important is not which is best, what suits you the best. But important is regularity. As one of my doctor friend, very good friend of mine, who is a very famous, I can say gastrosurgeon, Dr. Rajesh Kapoor. He says that when you meditate in the morning, the spillover effect there will be there whole day. Then by evening, again you are caught up in the worry cycle. Do one more dose of meditation. You will have a good sleep. You will have a restful sleep and you will refreshed in the morning. Again, so one dose of meditation in the morning, one dose in the evening, your 24-hour will become peaceful, full of awareness, full of happiness, peace, joy, even in these times. So meditation is truly being emphasized by even Deepak Chopra ji. And further he says, but you need to be vigilant on two other fronts, sleep and stress. Again he is emphasizing sleep and stress. Good sound sleep maintains homeostasis and prevents cascade of imbalance that occur in the hormones. Stress is a powerful trigger for hormone imbalance, among other things. It has been linked to chronic inflammation, for example, which seems to be present in the acute and chronic disease. Then he says, you can do more to be on the side of healing by following positive lifestyle choices you already know are good for you in terms of healthy diet and avoiding and greatly minimizing alcohol and tobacco. So again he is coming to diet. He's also talking of diet, which we started with this. And he says minimizing alcohol, tobacco and drugs. I forgot to mention that the damaging effect of alcohol, the damaging effect of tobacco and all sorts of drugs, all those of intoxicating substances, how they also make us more prone to these type of infections as is going on now. And talking of the food, I am reminding of one fact, that besides the whole food plant-based diet, we have some special foods, especially if we talk of the Indian culture, the Indian tradition. Some of our spices are treasure troves, storehouses of anti-inflammatory properties, antioxidant properties, immuno-enhancing properties. And lots of things have been written. You may be knowing about the research on turmeric. I don't think any other food item has been as much researched as turmeric. Hundreds of research papers on the medicinal properties of turmeric. Ginger, another very widely researched, Indian herb, or you can say our spice. And there are, according to my search of internet, I could find, whatever I could search, the 6 top spices, you can say, or Indian spices if you like to call, which have been found not only immuno-enhancing properties but antiviral properties also. One is dalchini or cinnamon, haldi or turmeric, black pepper or kali mirch as we call in Hindi, tulsi or oxymum sanctum, adrak is ginger, and lasun is garlic. So these 6, of course there are many more. If we talk of the Indian Ayurvedic tradition, research has been done on ashwagandha, research has been done on amla, and many other herbs. But these are the common ones which are used in almost all Indian kitchens. So I must say, we the Indians are lucky in that way that our ancestors, our rishis had the wisdom without the modern scientific technology to include such fantastic spices in our system of cooking and our daily life, which the whole world is finding as one of the most useful food items for mankind. Whether you talk of anti-inflammatory role, you talk of immuno-enhancing, you talk of antioxidants. It is very surprising how those people thousands of years back could know about that. But whatever is the source, whether modern medicine or traditional Ayurveda or whatever, these foods, I think, should be consumed regularly to enhance our defense system and immunity. There is a lot of evidence scattered in the various places. Then, so much from his article. You can read this article on internet. What are the other evidence that mind, that he is talking of mind role in immunity, whether really, how much is the evidence that mind affects our healing responses, our immune system? There can be, I think, no better book in my knowledge than this one by Blair Justice, Who Gets Sick? Thinking and Health. He has given hundreds of studies where he links the thinking not only with the infectious diseases, which are current discussion now, but about with all types of diseases, heart diseases, cancers, diabetes, all sorts of diseases. But our focus today is on infectious diseases, so I will focus on that only, and that gives us a very interesting, insight that he says in the beginning itself, our influence over infections, only a fraction of those who are infected with a pathogen become ill, and psychological factors may play a major role in determining who gets and does not get sick. I have come to a tentative conclusion: there is an immunosuppression prone personality. He says, very strong words he has used. He says that there are people who seem to be having a personality which pushes them to the being more vulnerable to the infections. Those who are always looking at the negative side, who are always pessimistic, always depressed, worried. So that is counterproductive. And he has given so many studies. For example, in one study, in the beginning itself, he says, Boston University School of Medicine compared a group of college students who were repeatedly getting upper respiratory tract infections, common cold, sore throat, etc., compared to those university students who are very seldom getting it. And they found that the main difference was the difference in their life circumstances, their attitude towards life. Those who are worried type, frustrated type, depressed type, always worrying type, they had the maximum, these infections. Similarly, again coming back to the Ornish's article, where he talks about, he gives a very good study, Sheldon Cohen, published in the Journal of American Medical Association, in which he dipped the rhinoviruses in the noses of volunteers. Rhinoviruses are a very infective viruses, common cold viruses. And he found in the volunteers, all of them become infected, but not everybody developed the signs of common cold. Those who had 1, 2, 3 social ties, means very less phone calls from the friends, very less interaction with the friends and relatives, they had at least 4 times more likely to develop common cold than those who had 6 or more social ties. Now 4 times means 300% extra risk. So being socially connected, see, social distancing we are telling, but not social connectivity through phone, not avoiding talking through phone or other internet or whatever with our loved ones. That is important, to be connected, to be in touch with our loved ones. That is very important according to this article. Similarly, he gives gives another study in which the same person who gave the cold viruses, Sheldon Cohen, who dripped the cold viruses in the volunteers, including coronavirus. Coronavirus is not just this coronavirus. Coronavirus is also one of the cold viruses, but it is not that deadly. So that coronavirus was also there. And he found, very interestingly, there was a dose response between amount of psychological distress and getting the common cold symptoms, getting actual cold. Higher the social distress, higher was the chance of converting the infection into common cold. So there are studies, lots of studies. And in the same book, again coming back to who gets sick, on page 161 he says, very interesting part, Louis Pasteur, the French chemist and the bacteriologist who developed germ theory, had been challenged on induction into the prestigious French Academy that he believed external agents were the cause of all disease. His opponent, H. Purdue, said disease is a common result of variety of diverse external and internal causes. So, Louis Pasteur was always opposing tooth and nail this concept that external factors are also there besides the germs. But by the time Pasteur died, he agreed that internal causes were important, that how people react to life and their environment can be even more decisive in disease than the influence of a germ. On his deathbed he said, Li germe niest rien, siest li terrain, qui ives taut. The microbe is nothing, the soil is everything. So friends, germs are important. Germs definitely have to be avoided, but they are not the final authority as given in these articles. We have the power, we have the capacity to be able to converting that infection into the disease by our thinking, our way we are reacting to the life. So that is a very important message, I suppose. Well, there are other ways also to change our mood, to change our mind's thinking system, and one of them, friends, is music. Music. Instead of hearing to the countdown of deaths and this and that and morning and evening and getting depressed, I suggest to you, friends, please listen to music. Please switch off the TV for a few hours. Let us not be obsessed by that countdown, because that is going to make our immunity more and more. No. Being careful is different. We have to be careful, but why to continuously listen to the same number game? Instead of that, listen to your favorite music. And what will happen? The psycho-neuroimmunological effect of music, a systematic review and a new model. Very effectively, it has reviewed. It is in the Elsevier journal, Brain Behavior Immunity, issue number 36, 2014, page 15 to 26. And there are other also, music as medicine, effect of specific music on psychoneuroimmunological responses. So music can be one thing which can help us in these days to reverse, to change our mood. Another can be effect of mirthful laughter, stress and natural killer cell activity. NK cell, I told you in the beginning, one of the most important part of our natural defense. That can be influenced by having a belly laughter, sharing a joke with the friends, sharing good things, past memories, some childhood things with our brother, sister or our friends. So that is also important. Not just thinking about the numbers, so many died here, so many died there. That is not going to help us. So we have to come out of this gloominess. And talking of exercises, before I conclude, I missed on one point. Exercises are important, but there are research that breathing exercises are also very important. And one kind of breathing exercise known as pranayam. The Indian system, the yogic system of breathing, there is a lot of research that it improves our lung capacity, it improves our lung functions. It makes our lungs stronger, like other breathing exercises. And there is a study to support this. According to a study in Norwegian University of Science and Technology, holding your breath can not only change the genetic activity of white blood cells, the immune cells, but also appear to significantly increase white blood cells to help fight illnesses. And holding breath is a part of some types of pranayam. So pranayam also seems to be one of the important, and more will come out in these days about this type of activity. So we now know the importance of meditation as suggested by Deepak Chopra and others. Meditation is the one big game changer, and we have research on meditation also. Mindfulness meditation and immune system, a systematic review of randomized controlled trials. This is a 2017 June 1 publication. Annals of Academy of Science, NY Academy of Science. Annals of NY Academy of Science 2016 June. Mindfulness meditation and immune system, a systematic review of randomized controlled trials. Now, randomized controlled trials are thought to be the gold standard of modern medicine. And they have reviewed several randomized controlled trials where they have shown that mindfulness meditation can boost the immunity. Now, it can be done by various ways. It can be done through Herbert Benson's relaxation response or any other, whatever way suits you. But it should be done regularly, morning and evening. Coming to the last part, the concluding part, and that is, what is the role of spiritual dimension? First of all, is there a spiritual dimension? There is evidence. Well, lots of evidence is there. In one of the coming sessions, I will talk only about that. What is spiritual dimension, a scientific concept or not? And there is lots of evidence. The very fact that twice WHO has considered spiritual dimension in its deliberations, 1984 and 1998. They have passed resolution, the World Health Assembly, that the definition of health should be revised as health is a dynamic state of complete physical, mental, spiritual and social well-being. And there are hundreds of research papers, well-written books on the spiritual dimension of health. So definitely there is evidence, that growing evidence, that spiritual dimension, being spiritually oriented, being spiritually connected to the divine, to the consciousness, whether you call it Ram or Krishna or Allah or Jesus or Buddha or Vaheguru or anything, does not matter. What matters is, are you tuned to that higher consciousness? Are you tuned to that higher awareness? Even Max Planck, one of the greatest physicists, father of quantum physics, very strongly said, you cannot go beyond consciousness. Every subatomic particle has consciousness. And modern physics is definitely, strongly supporting the notion that there is consciousness in this universe. So, that part also has to be, thought, especially by those who believe in these things. Those who don't believe, well, there are lots of other things which can be done. And as a concluding remark from one of the greatest spiritual, luminaries of modern world, who was the mother in her book, in the book, not her book by Sri Aurobindo Ashram Pondicherry, Health, Food and Healing in Yoga. And this is the picture of the mother. She was the one who nurtured the Aurobindo Ashram under the guidance of our Guru, the great spiritual giant Aurobindo Maharishi. She, in a discussion, gives a very interesting remark, which I would like to conclude today's session. She was asked, but are not illness sometimes the result of microbes and not a part of movement of yoga? Of course, this discussion was between a guru and disciple on spiritual lines. But the answer is interesting. She says, from where does the depression come? She says, it is due to the depression in vital force. This suddenly getting ill, because she says we are always surrounded by thousands and thousands of bacteria and viruses, but we don't get ill. But suddenly we get ill. She says it is because of depression in vital force. But again she is asking what causes it? It comes from some disharmony in the being, from the lack of receptivity to the divine forces. Lack of receptivity to divine forces. When you cut yourself off from the energy and light that sustains you, then there is this depression. There is created what medical science calls a favorable ground. Something takes advantage of it. It is doubt, gloominess, lack of confidence, a selfish turning back on yourself that cuts you off from the light and the divine energy and gives the attack this advantage. It is this that is the cause of your falling ill and not microbes. She is very categorical in saying that it is you can say the spiritual crisis in a way. Of course, let me again clarify, this statement should be more acceptable and practical for those who are into spiritual orientation. But even for those who are spiritually oriented, we have to wear the mask, we have to wear the gloves, we have to take social distancing, we have to follow all the guidelines from the various government agencies, but we have to keep our diet, whole food, plant-based diet, less and less of meat. If not at all is good. If you want to take, okay, little is okay, but mainly whole food, plant-based diet, not taking alcohol or tobacco, feeding our gut flora, gut microbiome by these healthful diets, being physically active as far as possible, either cleaning the house, cleaning the utensils, mending the bed or whatever, cooking food, having restful sleep, good quality sleep as far as possible in the nature cycle, not in your man-made cycle, and being hopeful, being prayerful, being positive, talking to our loved ones, whatever way we want to talk to. These are the things which are going to make us strong innerly, from our immunity side, from various points of view, and taking these precautions, we will help our friends, our family, our loved ones to overcome this crisis of mankind, and we will come out as winners if we follow these things. So friends, thank you for listening this discussion up to the end, and I pray to God Almighty to keep us all healthy and come out of this crisis soon. Namaskar.